Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Tosh Customs and today I am very excited to review Matrix, Ninja from the Digital Frontier. This is a sort of cyberpunk themed custom and it's been a while since I've actually made a cyberpunk themed figure. I've done a lot of Marvel, a lot of crossovers, it feels like as of late, but not too many original designs. And the reason for that is I took this commission over a year ago now. And as you know, life has just been very, very busy recently. And because of that, I have not been able to be as active in the workshop as I would like to. And so, a year later, we finally have this guy right here. And as crazy as it sounds to have a commission that takes a year long, I'm actually so happy it did because I was able to spend what I feel like was precious time to continue to review and go over his design because honestly the what he is right now a year later is not the vision that I had sketched out and set out with the customer originally. And I think I would have been just so much more disappointed looking back on the final product had I gone with the original vision. This character has just gone over so many changes. Originally, he was going to be this all white, almost lost balance there. This all white ninja, or like a white and black ninja. And there was actually going to be very little color. It's primarily going to be white and black with a little bit of silver. Um, and then we just sort of continued to play around with the design. I said, hey, we need certain highlights here, or certain things feel a little bit boring, or certain things don't feel balanced. And slowly we just kept tweaking and refining. I would say, something in this area feels empty. Tweak it and refine it. Something here doesn't feel quite right. Let's tweak it and let's refine it and let's keep building on this guy. And so it was very much like I left this project open-ended, and it's very cool to finally be here. And I feel very proud of how this figure has turned out. So as always, we're going to talk about accessories first. So I'm going to pop off the head, pop off the little cloak around the shoulders, and we'll dive into it. So starting off with the first head, we have this sort of Ninja Giden inspired head sculpt right here. And the real nice thing about this one is that I got to really test myself on my 3D printing skills. It was the first time I had done like sort of floating points, like these little spikes on the back. And it was definitely one of the first times when I was originally designing this that I was doing more hard surface type plating. And so here as you can see here, very Ninja Gaiden inspired with this whole crown sitting up at the top. And then I took some notes from Snake Eyes. Originally, I was thinking about doing the exposed eyes, but then I said, this is Cyberpunk. There's bullets flying around. Maybe there's lasers or there's energy weapons. Maybe he needs to analyze the battlefield. So I said, we're going to make this a full face helmet. It's going to be completely hard plated, and we're going to really dive into those more mechanical panel lining type details. So we have this visor, and I really like this because I was able to inlay this jade green, and there's jade green all over this guy, and it actually feels really cool because it feels like it took some nods from Power Rangers as well, with the gold with the green mixed with the white and the black. Definitely like a white dragon type of character. And there's some other nods to sort of those design elements as we go through the rest of the figure. But here's the first head. As you can see, even some gold detailing in panel lining through the actual crest itself. You can see some gold highlights running through here. And then once again, black panel lining and some more jade green around the mouthpiece. It's not going to come out too clear in camera, but actually some of the white painted here is flat. And then there's other parts around the front of the mask here that are actually picked out in a pearl. And you can kind of see that pearl shine if I carry it up to the light a little bit like that, but it's not translating all too well on camera. But there is some differences pulled out to, sort of denote the front of the faceplate, some nice layering and weathering there. So that's our first head. Our second head, this is the one I posted a while back where I said it's like Hanzo Hasashi crossed with Jetstream Sam. As you can see, we have this really cool ponytail pulled back just like so. And then you can actually see that there's some red underneath some of these lines here up around the eyes. And I think that's really cool because in Cyberpunk, there's usually silver underneath it. But I was like, it's kind of interesting to think that, maybe there is, we have these sort of surgery-esque lines or modification-esque lines, but they sort of scar over, right? They're not, you wouldn't see, if you had living skin, over a metal implant, it probably would be more like scar tissue in very irregular geometric lines than it would actually be silver running through. So I wanted to play with that idea instead, where it's like, maybe some of these areas, they're little machine parts that like a USB stick can get tabbed in or pulled out. And you are seeing the process of healed or healing wounds there. And then we have the face mask all around here. We got some ear covers here. I'm realizing that some of this is not fully painted over. I'll be cleaning that up. That's a shame. I totally forgot about that. Yeah, this side's a little bit better. Working on that fade between skin to hair. But yeah, I'll tidy that up before it ships out. Sorry about that. Sorry you even have to see that in the review. But here we are. You can see the face mask here. And once again, talking about that Jetstream Sam cross like Hanzo Hasashi or cross Scorpion from Mortal Kombat. I was really inspired by his Mortal Kombat 11 and Mortal Kombat 1 mask that is definitely a bit more organic, working with sort of like these skull-esque lines, sort of a skull motif with your cheekbones here, sort of coming and narrowing down to where the mouth and the teeth would be, as well as playing a little bit with like a nose cutout at the top right there. But still, obviously, very cyberpunk, and so we're still working with much more geometric and hard panel lining, leading to sort of these ear coverings. You have a very nice pointed chin spike right over there. And then once again, coming around to the back, you do have sort of that top knot design sculpted in to the head. So there we go. In terms of accessories, he has these two hook blades, and these are from the Marvel Legends Shang-Chi Wen-Wu figure. As you can see here, they have been totally repainted. So I painted them all black because they had these black handles and this very weird plastic gunmetal gray. Painted all black, and then after that, dry brushed with some gunmetal, some chrome silver, and then black washed over that again to make it feel really weathered. And that's an effect that I've really enjoyed using recently, is washing over the metal again. It helps add sort of like that pitting or that dirt effect into your metal sheen. And then, as you can see, talk about those jade green highlights coming up through the hook blade. And I think this design's sort of interesting. If you look at it here, there's almost like these chain links that run through, and you can see how it looks like you have some tabs up here as if this is supposed to lock into the bottom portion here and it's actually extended. I really like that. I wish we could have seen something like that in the movie, and clearly this was some kind of idea that maybe was in the concept art for Marvel that never made it, out into the final movie. But for a cyberpunk character, it is a really cool idea to think he's using these hook blades. These can be used to grab someone's ankles, or in some cases, let me grab the second one out of his hand here. In some cases, a person would even throw the second blade, have these interlink, and then you can hit someone with the back or with sort of the grip guard up here. And so you could link them and swing them around because of the hooks. So it's cool to think that these also maybe have some kind of manual, or maybe even there's some kind of digital implant in chip implant in someone's head that they could activate the chain link extension. So maybe these hooks are able to swing around, or it's just simply lengthens the blade, giving an unexpected reach. Imagine you link this and you swing it, and someone thinks they've jumped out of the way, and then both of these extend and you're still able to hit the person. Or you're falling from a ledge and you're extending these to, to save yourself and to swing to safety. Some interesting thoughts there. But anyways, jade green highlights right up in there inside the chain links as well. Putting the 2 hook blades to the side, we'll take a look at the throwing knives now. These were 3D modeled and 3D printed. Really, really happy with how they turned out. He's got 2 of them. As you can see here, the grip is all detailed. You can see all of that. The camera is picking that up perfect. And you can see that gunmetal on the ring around the back, as well as some gunmetal and chrome silver running up the front of the blade. And then as you can see, there is some jade green inlay in the panel lining of that blade as well. I ran into an interesting problem with these, and it's that the gripping hands for this figure are very, very wide because we are using some Baron Ben's hands. And so these are used to hold his trident. And sorry, I dropped that hand there. They're meant for holding the trident, so they're way, way larger than anything I need. Thankfully, though, I was able to measure these to be pretty nice, and you can actually just sort of like pressure wedge them into the front of the hands there. So those will hold. You can kind of tuck it under the thumb too if you really want to, and maybe he's holding it back or he's doing a little stylish flip with it. So there's definitely a couple little ways. The best thing I found is to actually take the loop and you can just sort of like pressure it right into the hand a little bit, just like so, and then you can still get him into a nice combat pose, holding the throwing knife. But yeah, that was a tough part because I had to size it in a way that looks realistic and proportional to the figure. As you can see, this throwing knife is already almost like the length of his whole calf. So it's it's already a sizable and a realistically sized blade. As you can see, if he was holding this, you can see how it would look compared to the rest of the body. It's a good size. And so I made something proportional and that fit real life expectations for measurement, but unfortunately, since the hands can't grip tighter from like a big C-curve grip, they can't tighten up around the blade. I had to figure out how to do a little bit of some pressure holding to finagle that. And that was a little compromise that the customer and I had to talk about, because I was saying, if we want it to fit his hand, you're going to have these handles like 2 or 3 times thicker. And it's like, I can remodel it like that, but it's just going to look gross. It's not going to really make sense for the design. We're going to have this fat handle that way outscales the actual blade and the actual loop itself, and it'll fit into the hand a little bit nicer, but in every other display, it'll look kind of ugly. So we landed instead with this compromise and kept them pretty small. So like I said, we're using Baron Ben's hands. So we do have fists, we have his gripping hands, and then we have open splayed out finger hands. And I like these because he can get into a ninja pose and sort of have his hands on the ground. Or the other thing he can do is take a throwing knife and you can slide it in between the fingers there and he can be ready to throw it. So both of those are very, very fun. For the tops of the hands here, they have been sprayed in a normal white and then sprayed in a pearl white, and then a little bit of weathering over that as well. As you can see, really happy with how those turned out too. I have enjoyed using that pearl white paint across this figure, and it's definitely coming across very nicely in the white for these hands. So yeah, all these have been painted and detailed up like that for the white on the top of the guards. So now let's talk about the actual figure. So, I guess last but not least, really, we also have this cloak here. This is I think it's a modified Magneto cloak, if I'm not mistaken. I just cut it up, folded it over itself, glued some stuff down, and then repainted it. A big thing I wanted to do is actually highlight the leather texture, the artificial leather texture that's through it. And so you can see all the, all the little crinkles and creases. I washed it in a black and then a brown, and then dry brushed some stuff over it as well. So originally it's white, and I like this. I like how the paint actually sort of stains through it, because I specifically added a little bit more weathering around these like burn holes and around these tears and stuff. And so almost the idea that his cloak, maybe a long, long time ago when he first started his journey, he first started fighting, it was a much longer cloak. Maybe it could it was his disguise as he went through the city. But nowadays, it's been completely shot up. It's been completely torn in combat, and now it's just barely, it's just almost like a little shawl that's covering the top of his shoulders now. So even a little bit of a storytelling element right there, showing how long he has been doing what he's doing. So now that we're here, let me get on the ninja head and let's start talking about the figure. So, like I said, we are using the Mezco Magneto body right here. Really, really happy with how this has turned out, and I'm going to sort of try to even out my lighting a little bit here. One of my light bars is a little too high. Let me bring it down and, oops, concentrate that light source a little bit more. This should be a little bit stronger for our viewing pleasure. There we go. That's a lot better. So, Magneto PX previews exclusive white Magneto body. I have actually used this before for the Cyberpunk cop, but clearly things have gone, or the Cyberpunk vigilante, but things have gone very, very differently in this design. Once again, inspired a lot by Ninja Gaiden, and one thing as we were concept designing this character was, we said, what if he has, like, we go for an asymmetrical design where he's got this sleeve over an arm. And so I actually cut off this entire sleeve from the Mezco Black Bolt figure and pasted it and glued it on over the arm of Magneto. And then what I did was took some faux leather and cut it out to match around the collar and all the way down here. And so you have this whole arm, sleeve, shoulder piece, and then we also have this whole strap with this, maybe sort of heart monitor or little emblem of some kind up here on the front. And then I took a Star Wars shoulder pad, glued it over the top there, and repainted it to add a shoulder pad, or almost like a little like armor crest up here as well. So really happy with how all that turned out. I put writing down here, which reads for dragon in kanji, and so I wanted to sort of like counter highlight that with a little bit of red up here. And those are the only two places that have this application of red on the character, and I think that's perfect. Talk about using colors to highlight things. You have to decide what your primary colors are, your secondary colors are, and your tertiary colors are. So my primary is still very clearly white and black, and then we have sort of these tertiary metals. We have our greens, we have our golds, we have our gunmetals, and then really, really far down in our tertiary colors, we have highlights of red. And that to me was really important in the design, was getting a very full and balanced look. Originally, I had done the skirt piece and I had written dragon on it, and I was sitting there and I realized, hey, there's this red here, and it's the only place sitting there it doesn't feel balanced. It feels like it weighs down the waist and the hips now, because I've introduced this new color scheme. I don't want to paint it in anything else. The red looks perfect, but I'm going to offset it now with a little bit of red on this shoulder. And now the eye is sort of pulled, you're seeing this red and the eye is pulled in two directions. And so because of that, the character feels a lot more balanced when you're looking at him. So that's the sleeve. All the paneling here is normally done in white rubberized overlay on the figure. I painted all of that black. I left the back to keep it white because I actually like that the back is not as heavy, and these lines over here don't really match the same look as here. So I was fine with leaving those blank on this side. I think coming up and over the shoulders with this is enough application, like so. So I said that is, some of these are okay to leave. Have to pick and choose my battles. As you can see, I left some of those white lines down there blank as well. And ultimately, I'm using it to help add to the frame. Black is always a thinning color because black absorbs light. It's a lot harder to visually see the outline of something. That's why when people say, if you want to look smaller, you wear black, or you wear slightly baggier clothes so that they visually outweigh you. And so likewise, I'm using these black lines right here, these rubberized overlay to help direct the eye. Because if you have white here, white, the edge is very hard to see, where black, the edge is too easy to see, right? I can go black edge to black edge, and the distance between there visually, I go, oh, that's very small. Where I go white edge to white edge, and that can look very, very wide. Even if you look at it from this side for some reason, it's the same size on either side, but this feels quite a bit wider visually than the same outline that you see on this side. And that's because you don't have these lines sort of cutting that visually. So even though there's much more out here, you end up looking at this. This is a lot easier to catch your eye, and you kind of ignore this sort of weird dead zone right here. So once again, we've talked about it a lot, but visual weight. So now, coming over to the left arm here, definitely one of the prides of this figure is this right arm, not left arm. And this is a hand-painted Japanese dragon, the green dragon, or the jade dragon here. And I really like how this is played out. As I was sitting and designing the character, the right arm was just naked the entire time. Originally, I was going to just leave it completely blank. I started playing around with putting a shoulder pad up there, but a shoulder pad up here and having a shoulder here with all this sleeve, it didn't make it feel balanced. Once again, I had to create visual balance. And so I said, well, if I have all this black, all this sort of thinning material, right, this makes the arm look skinnier. But then I have this shoulder pad that makes it feel heavy. I have the red visually here, so we have this on the other side to help bring some attention to it, to help break up the arm. Maybe it helps it feel less muscular, less big, and it adds some visual interest, where otherwise everything is sort of drawn to this left side, right? We have the strap that's pointing left. We have all this that's sort of catching your eye because visually it's different, right? You see all the rubberized paneling, it's all shiny. You're going, ooh, I want to look at that side. Now we get to look at the right side here. So this is completely hand painted. So what I did was I started off with, I did the white lines first, and I really just blocked it out in white. So I blocked out my dragon shape in white. And then from there, I filled in the center with gray and then highlighted it, more of like my sharper details with the black lines. So I sort of did like an opposite shadow effect, and that's what gives it that negative space type look. And then I made some little clouds and I dappled some white to the clouds. Originally, I was thinking, do I need to paint the clouds completely white? Because if I paint these white here, they have to kind of run white all the way down the arm. And then I was looking at some paintings, and I realized that, a lot of this stuff is sort of not necessarily watercolored, but it's done with ink. There's a lot of paintings that are done with ink, and they create this really nice fade. And so I realized that, I can thin out the white and I can dapple it on here, and I can mimic that fade onto the skin very nicely. So I did that, and I originally did not have the green lightning on it. Originally, it was going to be like a red and blue dragon tattoo, something that felt maybe a little bit more classic tattoo. It even has, a mix of Japanese mythology with maybe some more like classic Americana type tattoo design. And then as it kept going, I sort of found my bearing in the design, and I said, okay, I want this to be very, very traditional Japanese. And so we have those nice little horns or antlers at the top. You see the dragon has some whiskers here. We did very stylized clouds. And then as I was coming to the end of it, I said it needs a pop of color. It's still playing on this monochromatic white, black design that we have throughout the figure. If this is going to be a good tattoo, it needs to pop. And so I took a very thin brush and I painted all this green lightning coming out through it. And I had already done the gauntlets at this point with these green lines running through the gold scaled sections. And so I just lined that up. And so now it looks like you have this green energy running through the arm, powered by this jade dragon running to his gauntlets. And as you can see, maintains full articulation still. the whole thing. So very, very excited about that. These gauntlets here, as you can see, gunmetal with some pearl white. Got more pearl white. You got your pearlescent gold. Pretty standard. The big thing here was washing it in black in the crevices, so you have those black lines breaking it up. And then what I actually had to do is I had to come through with alcohol on a Q-tip and wipe away all the top layering, and then so that you got the black lines deep in there. Then you got your white pearl plastic, because this is actually the color of the plastic, your pearl plastic on the surface, and then painting all the gunmetal bands running around the arm, and then picking this top part out in gold. Coming down to the waist and the legs here, we have a Mezco black skull belt, and then the front of the belt has been covered with our little skirt piece that once again reads dragon in kanji. And then you have some little leather bits on the sides here that connect down to his thigh armor. Originally, we weren't going to have armor, and then the customer said, hey, feels a little naked on the legs. Can we do knee pads? And I was thinking about knee pads for a while. And what I realized is knee pads, if I put a knee pad here and then I have all of this scale armor pointing down, it adds a lot of visual weight pointing down to the feet. And he's a ninja. He's supposed to be fast. And so I said, hey, the knee pads, I don't think it's a good idea because it puts too much weight too low. I need to visually disperse the weight so that he can be armored, he can be protected, but he doesn't feel too heavy all in one area. So I took these thigh pads off a Black Series Inquisitor. I think it was the fifth brother. And put some elastic bands around the armor there. You can see we have it highlighted in gold, and once again, some more jade green running through that little panel line across that. And I think that turned out really, really nice. Obviously, everything's connected, so it follows with the articulation of the leg. And then finally, coming down to the boots, very similar paint application to the arms. The black, super deep, the white bands alternating along with the gunmetal bands across the legs. One thing I did in here though was I did that same sort of alcohol wiping treatment along the feet. So I painted all the feet with all the stitching in black, and then I came through and I wiped it away in white. And so now you can see all that stitching detail, all the creases and all the wrinkling. And I think that's really nice because it helps portray the type of material that you have here. And then I picked out the front of the boots with a little bit of pearl. So you can see that we have more of like a matte black weathered, like a matte black white weathered approach, where this would be, leather or some sort of, polyester material. And then up at the front here where we have these sort of metal caps on the toes, you have that in shiny pearl. I think, when we're talking about the recipe for this guy, there's really no kit bashing whatsoever. We've swapped out the type of hands. We've brought in a couple, new applications of soft goods like the pants. We've brought in different armor pieces from Black Series. We've 3D printed some stuff. But I would say largely this guy thrives off of the paint application. And in saying that, I think a big takeaway is the time that was spent in redesigning this guy and giving him the time and space to breathe properly. This, like I said, this project was started a year ago, and it has evolved a lot since I first started working on this guy. And a big part of that was I had the time, and thankfully the customer was so patient and kind, to continue to look at this guy and say, hey, what do I like? What do I not like? What do I like? What do I not like? And a crazy part was I really didn't start diving back into this guy. I started it in the summer of last year, and then wedding planning went on, and new apartment and new job went on, and I didn't return back to this guy for maybe like 4, 5, 6 months. And when I came back, I said, hey, I know we still have a lot to do on this guy, but I'm not happy with what I started 6 months ago, 5 months ago, 4 months ago, whatever it was. At this point, I don't even remember. But being able to look at that and him going, okay, so then what's, what do we want to do? How do we continue to design this guy? And we went back and forth and back and forth, and we landed here. And I'm really, really proud of how he turned out, because that extra time dedicated to the design of the character really allowed all these different things to shine about him. Before, we would not have had the shoulder pad up here. We would have not had the leg armor on the thighs. This second head actually got re-sculpted. I have a much, much worse version of this head sculpt, and that was the original one going on it. And I had returned and I said, hey, 6 months later, I'm a lot better of a sculptor now, and I'm realizing I'm picking out a lot of flaws that are in this design now. Let me revisit this. Let me revisit the paint on this guy. Let me revisit the places we're putting the armor. Let me revisit this head sculpt, or, the sleeves or the tattoo, a bunch of things. And just being able to invest time into the revisions was so great. And I'm not saying for, you customers, take a year, spend a year on every commission you do. It's not, unfortunately, timing and situations have been tough. But I think if anything, I said this in my last video too, take some time to step away. Don't do all your paint work in one shot, but instead separate yourself from it, come back and revisit it, separate yourself and come back and revisit. It doesn't have to be a year, but maybe maybe you can put 2 weeks. If you think you're done painting it, take a week away and come back, next weekend, or come back, whenever you want to go back and work on it. Because I guarantee you will find some things that you thought were really, really cool in the moment, and then upon further inspection, you go, maybe that doesn't hit. Maybe that's not as cool as I thought it used to be. Because that was definitely the case for me, and I'm so glad that I've been able to spend the time to continue to revise this character. I think if I can have a final thought here, I think the time invested was super well worth it. And I've now had this figure, coming up to this review, there was just a couple little nitpicks and little tiny tweaks that I was doing. We were trying to figure out if we could apply weapon storage for the throwing knives, and ultimately we said, hey, maybe this isn't the right move, because the original thought was to actually put it on the legs like that, at some kind of angle, and then, but when you look at it from here, because the leg is curved, there's actually very little area and room the knife is actually sitting there. And so to put a clip there or something like that, it would look very awkward. And so we played around with the different ideas for weapon storage and ultimately said, hey, we are going to respect the sleek, very streamlined elements of this design, and we're going to actually do no weapon storage. But I've had, but especially in those little final tweaks, I've had him sitting at my desk for a while, and every time I come back to him, I'm finally at a place where I say there are no more tweaks that I want to do. I don't look at this guy anymore, and I don't feel like there's anything missing. I feel very, very happy with it. And that really goes to show that I believe I have made a good design. There's a lot of figures that I look back on and I go, I could do that better, and I'm not saying that this guy is perfect. And, 2 years from now, a year from now, maybe I'll see flaws in my design or in my, theory of crafting a character. But for where I am right now, I can say that I am 100% satisfied with this guy. I feel that he is visually balanced in every way. I don't think anything on this character weighs too much or is too busy or takes away from each other. But instead, I think every detail here, you want to look at it. You want to pick it out. You want to spend more time staring at it. And there's always something to look at on this guy. And so very happy with the final product here. So without further ado, thank you all for watching this video. I appreciate all of your support, all of the love you guys show to the channel, to the Instagram page. it means a lot. And so I'm glad that I have been able to continue to make these videos, make these reviews. Um, in terms of what's coming next, I am finishing up my last 2 commissions for this year, and then I think I'll be taking a break until maybe spring of 2024. I don't want to make any promises, but there's definitely some personal projects and things that I would like to experiment in. I actually really want to return back to Marvel Legends, and part of a reason why I haven't been continued making that series is I am really trying to learn more about the pinless joints that G.I. Joe is using pinless joints. Power Rangers has been using pinless joints. Marvel Legends is now, updating a lot of their arm and leg molds and using pinless joints. And so I'm sort of diving into, how do we as customizers continue to move forward in this pinless joint world where taking apart the arms and the legs is much more difficult. Are there reliable ways to do that? And there's kind of like theory crafting in terms of the design elements there. So in terms of what I want to make in that spare time, I'm hoping to do an Agent Venom, because I haven't made an Agent Venom in 4 or 5 years now. So I think a revisit to the character would be really great, especially since I can 3D print. My hand sculpting is a lot better. So projects like that, stuff that I would not get commissioned to do, but stuff that I feel passionate about making. And that is sort of going back to how Tosh was once again 3 or 4 years ago. I was largely making personal projects and selling those, and in some ways, just due to where my schedule is now, that fits my schedule and my timeline a lot better than to continue taking commissions. So I want to explore that route a little bit through the end of the year, hopefully, and through into early of 2024. And then, if I have the itch to return to commissions, if I want to, do more work with y'all, I'm never going to shut down commissions permanently, but I want to be able to work on a little bit of balance in terms of what interests me and what interests you guys as well. So thank you for listening to my little update at the end of this video. Once again, I appreciate and love you all very much. Thank you for your support on this video. If you want to see more of me and more of what I'm working on, please go follow the Instagram page. If you're new here, it is Tosh_Customs on Instagram. My username is in the description of this video. And without further ado, hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will catch you all next time. Take care.